Hello and welcome to Lyra Nara, and in today's video we are going to talk about the mysteries of vitality and health, and more specifically about proper nutrition and how important it is in order not to develop health conditions, what it means to eat healthy, and all of the secrets behind how wrong nutrition causes disease and robs you of your vitality and health. So let's dive right in and learn more about how important nutrition is to your vitality and health. So here are some facts for you to get this started. Did you know that in the course of 40 years life you consume about 42,000 meals, which is equivalent to about 21,000 tons or over 10.5 million pounds of food? Do these quantities have eventually some effects on the human body, you might ask? At the present time, cardiovascular and respiratory diseases claim more lives than all other causes of death combined. Over 25 million people are affected by arthritis. Diabetes claims over 5 million people and ranks third as a cause of blindness in the US. Cancer has become extremely widespread despite of our medical advancements and claims that we have found a cure for cancer. So why do we struggle to resolve all of these problems? What is guiding us? Progress in technology to a more comfortable life? And what are the trade-offs of these disrespectful choices that we make in order to live a more comfortable life? Well, air pollution, for example, water poisoning, dumping toxic waste and potential resources recycling, diseases and poor life quality, as well as spiritual and mental alienation, stress and unhappiness. Those are all signs and prices that we have to pay for our striving towards a more comfortable life. And in autopsies, one can see the huge amount of waste in our organism. You can smell the foul odors. You will be stunned when you discover the clogged vessels and the decomposed and degenerated organs that come from our unhealthy lifestyle. And there is a direct relationship between the earth cleanliness, our food, and human health. All is interconnected. And today, with more developed science, there is no reason to stumble over those explanations or understanding and concepts. We must eat the right food, we must purify our bodies permanently, and we must stay governed by nature's rules, which are the eternal truth. So let's see how we can do this. And the main accumulation points of uneliminated wastes are located primarily in our digestive tract, of course. Particularly affected are our colon, that is suffering from internal constipation, often the stomach, the small intestine, and our liver. And the average person has continuously, permanently, about 10 pounds of uneliminated feces that is clogging up the colon and is poisoning the blood and the whole body. But not only the uneliminated feces, but also mucus that is generated by undigested foods clogs up our gastrointestinal tract. And this is the result of diets mainly that are based on excessive protein, fat and starchy food intake. Every disease, you also have to understand, is an effort of your organism to solve its internal health problems, meaning to eliminate a surplus of waste, mucus, toxins, uric acid, and drugs that are stored in the body for decades. Not the diseases themselves, but the body has to be healed, cleansed, freed from the waste and foreign matters and toxins that have been accumulating during an irrational consummatory life. Later diseases are attempts of the body to eliminate waste, mucus and toxins. For example, a cold or influenza is purging out a lot of mucus. Some examples are cold, flu, indigestion, diarrhea, palpitations, dizziness, and anxiety. And dissolved chemical poisons through those so-called illnesses are being taken into the bloodstream. They affect the nervous system, the CNS, the central nervous system, and can cause extreme nervousness, dizziness, anxiety, depressions, and excessive heartbeats, as well as other strange sensations. And this blood then flows further to the kidneys, which try to filter out more toxins such as albumin, uric acid, bile excess, etc. Toxins throughout the entire system are one of the most harmful factors that are lowering our vitality and endurance. And unfortunately, nobody has a perfectly clean colon and digestive tract. And with that being said, we come to what is called constitutional diagnosis. What is constitutional diagnosis? Well, it evaluates the relative amount of encumbrance in your system after a short fasting period. So we determine the predominant part where more mucus and poisons are located, and it is there where strange sensations or pain during the short fasting might appear. Meat eaters have a lot of pus also in their system. Organs are in the process of decomposition or degeneration or are inflamed. And this determines how far the vitality and endurance are decreased. A patient's face indicates also many of the internal ailments. And we can perform a uric acid diagnosis that goes like this. So beside the digestive tract, the uric canal is the main avenue of elimination, and as soon as one decreases his eating, fasts or changes over to a natural diet, he or she will show waste, mucus, poisons, uric acid and phosphate in his or her urine. Fat patients, so overweight patients, carry about 50 to 60 pounds or even more foreign matters in the colon, such as hardened feces, parasites, die-offs, mucus, and pus. A so-called healthy person carries up to 10 pounds of never eliminated fecal stones. And one good stool per day means nothing and is by far not enough. You need lemon enema, for example, 2 to 3 times per day to have a good elimination of all of those residues. The body also of an overweight person is metabolically more stressed and obstructed because he or she is an overeater of, for example, starchy foods and too much meat. And the lean type has a more physiological chemical interference with the organism. Usually he or she is a big meat eater and shows excess of acidity, uric acid, other poisons, and especially pus that results from meat decomposition in your body. Patients' actual diet and cravings and the number of stools per day and the diets that you practice are valuable diagnosis info, and we can figure out for how long the patient has been sick, what diagnosis he received from doctors, which was the nature of the medical treatment, and what are the drugs that he's taken. If we take all of this into account, we can come to a pretty good diagnosis. To find out about the state of health of a patient, we can also perform what is called an experimental diagnosis. So we ask the patient to fast for 2 to 3 days, and the more rapidly the patient feels worse, the greater and the more poisonous is his or her encumbrance. And this experimental diagnosis can ascertain better than any CT or MRI or X-rays which diseases you have. Nature will also unerringly indicate where and how the patient will later become sick if the diet is not changed. And here I'd like to show you some examples next on how this works. For example, nervous system conditions. If the patient becomes dizzy and suffers severe headaches and the brain is heavily clogged with mucus and toxins, it is very likely that this patient is suffering or will develop nervous system conditions. For cardiovascular diseases, if the patient experiences heart palpitations, and then he or she has pus or drugs in the system, and even taken years before, they are still in circulation and they're waiting for elimination, and this can cause cardiovascular diseases. Cold and flus, it's a beneficial effort by your body to eliminate waste from the cavities of your head, throat, and bronchial tubes. Pneumonia means that the cold goes deeper and will eliminate the mucus from the most spongy organ, which are the lungs. A hemorrhage occurs to clean more radically the lungs, and the entire system is aroused, causing fever due to friction of waste in circulation. And wrongly, doctors stop this process through drugs and excessive protein-containing food intake. And if the patient does not die, the process of elimination becomes chronic, and the mucus purge will continue under the name of tuberculosis, which is a lungs further decay with a germ infection, or mucoviscidosis or cystic fibrosis, which is a lungs decay with an overproduction of mucus or cysts and germs. Next, toothache as an example. It is a warning signal of nature which literally tries to tell you, stop eating, I must repair, there is waste and pus here, and you are eating too much, or you ate too much of the wrong type of food. Stomach problems. The stomach has a biological limit to digest and to empty itself after a meal, and food, even good food, is mixed with the acidic mucus and remains in the stomach for a long time, creating the symptoms of GERD, ulcers, and gastritis. Rheumatism means that mucus and uric acid have an affinity for the connective tissue and your joints, and the joints are poorly circulated with blood and quickly become heavily loaded with waste and uric acid, especially if you are very high meat intake or starch eater. And doctors will diagnose you with arthritis, arthrosis, rheumatism, gout, and will start treating the pain with other strong toxins such as painkillers, corticosteroids. Eventually, you might even have your limbs amputated and your joints replaced. Goiter, it is the same deposit of nature of tremendous waste to keep it entering the blood circulation. Stammering is a special accumulation of mucus in the throat that is interfering with your vocal cords. Liver diseases, the liver is a large spongy organ which filters, of course, the blood that it receives from the colon and sends it out to the lungs and the whole body. And the liver therefore can easily become clogged because of the toxic matter that it receives from the gastrointestinal tract, and sends, in case of malfunction, it sends, if it's not working properly, all of those toxins and digestive residues and waste further to your lungs and kidneys. So all liver diseases are inflammatory processes that show the degree of the waste that have accumulated and have not been expelled, for example hepatitis A, B and C, or cirrhosis, or a fatty liver. Sexual diseases, all of the sexual diseases are based on mucus elimination through the sexual organs, and the use of drugs alone with the cleansing process produces the gonorrhea reactions and syphilis. Eye diseases, short or long sight, cataracts, macular degeneration, even blindness are always a congestion of the eyes due to mucus and pus. And here you can help yourself very well with the Castor Oil Vision that you can get at lyra.me, for example, link in the description box below for you. Mental diseases, it is always a brain congestion, usually diagnosed as encephalitis or meningitis, where pus and germs are present. Mentally diseased people suffer physiologically of gas pressure on the brain. We can also get a really good impression of the illnesses or the conditions a patient is suffering from by simply looking at the tongue. The coated tongue is evidence of a constitutional encumbrance throughout the entire system, which obstructs and congests the circulatory system by dissolved mucus. If you fast for 2 to 3 days and you eat only some fruits, you will see the tongue heavily coated because the cleansing process started during this fasting period, and the tongue is literally the mirror not only for the stomach but your entire membrane system. And the tongue is the mirror of your mucus and the toxin overloads as well as waste overloads in your body. Inflammation, pain, and different other symptoms are due to the friction between waste and the pipe system, causing overheating, and gas pressure causing congestion. The most and the first affected are the capillaries, easy to become clogged with wrong nutrition. You can imagine it like the soot in the stovepipe, even worse because the human soot is sticky due to the mucus nature of it and behaves like a paste therefore, and many times is also carrying pus due to the meat decomposition. Okay, so what is the secret of vitality then? Well, we can put vitality into a formula that goes like this: vitality equals power minus obstruction. Power is the energy that drives the human machinery, your body, which keeps us alive and gives us strength and endurance even without food. And obstruction is the encumbrance, the foreign matters, the toxins, the mucus, all of the matters that obstruct the circulation and the proper functioning of our internal organs. And when, of course, the obstruction becomes higher than the power, your body will slowly die, and the more the obstruction increases, the sicker you will become. And the human engine is an air-gas engine, so to speak, constructed from a rubber-like, very elastic, spongy material that we call flesh and tissue. It functions like a pump system by air pressure with an inside circulation of liquids, which is your blood, your lymph, your saliva, and others. And the pump is the lungs and not the heart, which is only the valve in the system. For over 400 years, medicine erroneously considered exactly the opposite to be true, but of course we know nowadays that the lungs are our pump and the heart is the valve of the system. The body is facing, of course, an atmospheric counter pressure, which is over 14 pounds to square inch. And the organism functions automatically by inhaling air under the force of this atmospheric pressure and expelling chemically changed air, which contains, of course, carbon dioxide due to the lungs vacuum cavity that has been created. And this is your perpetual life power, and you live as long as you breathe, of course, therefore. This is possible because your engines, so the lungs and all of the other organs, are spongy and elastic when healthy, with an intrinsic ability of vibration, expansion, and contraction. And the chemist Hensel experimentally demonstrated that this spongy elastic tissue is a matrix of lime sugar combinations, and you can develop vitality and health through breathing correctly, therefore. The lungs also provide, through the process of respiration, an essential chemical, which is carbon dioxide. You can have the right blood pH maintained constantly between 735 and 742, and perfectly working blood vessels does a good circulation only if you secure a ratio of 6.5% of carbon dioxide in your blood. You can also remove the obstruction by higher air pressure. It is also possible to remove the obstruction due to foreign matters by local vibrations, detoxification. You can also increase the power, of course, artificially for a certain time, but it will be at the expense of your vitality in the long term, similar to a rubber band that is permanently stretched, which will eventually lose its elasticity. And you relieve diseases and slow down your vitality, especially of the spongy organs such as lungs, liver and kidneys if you overstress your system. So you must take care of your obstructions most and foremost. Next, let's try to better understand the human body's physiology, because there are a lot of misconceptions there too. The medical physiology taught today is fundamentally wrong because it shows the following errors. The theory of blood circulation is not correctly explained. Metabolism or change of matter is not correctly explained. High protein diets are recommended. Blood composition and blood building are also erroneous in their interpretation often. And the correct blood circulation physiology is that the lungs are the motoric organs, so it's the pump of the blood circulation, and the heart is the engine's valve, meaning that the bloodstream drives the heart and not the other way around. Proofs for that? Well, as soon as you increase air pressure by increasing your breathing, you speed up the circulation and the number of your heartbeats. Secondly, as soon as you take into blood circulation a stimulating poison, for example alcohol, you increase the speed of your heartbeat, thus the blood drives the heart and not the other way around. Thirdly, as soon as you take a nerve paralyzing poison, for example digitalis, you decrease the heart's beat, thus the blood drives the heart and not the other way around again. Fourthly, increased air pressure, for example through climbing a hill or exercising, increases the heartbeat and not opposite, not the other way around. So let's try to understand metabolism better also. Metabolism is the science of changing matter and is nowadays the most absurd and dangerous doctrine ever imposed on mankind. Modern metabolism theory is the most erroneous albumin theory, killing many lives in the Western world because it postulates that cells are continually used by the process of life and therefore they have to renew themselves all the time. And to renew the cells, humans need proteins, which is albumin. Therefore, the human engine cannot live for a minute without protein food. That is the common belief. But the error lies herein that the human body does not expel, bump up, or use a single cell which is in a vital condition. I have a question for you. Does a cow drink milk to produce its own milk? No, of course not. How do millions of vegetarians survive without proteins? How can elephants, primates such as gorillas live on bananas, herbs and leaves mainly? High protein food acts as a stimulation for a certain time, decomposing almost instantly in your body where high enough temperature and oxygen exists. And the products that result from the meat digestion are purines, ammonia, lactic acid as well as uric acid and even pus, and all of those are heavy poisoning metabolites of proteins. And life is based on change of matter in the meaning of physiological chemical transformation through which energy becomes free and the body can efficiently perform metabolic pathways. Professor Chittenden found through experiments that energy and endurance increases with less food, especially less proteins. Professor Hindedi proved that albumin is not a factor of vitality, and even Hippocrates back in the day said the more you feed a sick person, the more you harm this person. Let your food be your medicine and your medicine be your food. We also need to understand blood in order to remain healthy and vital. And here we need to talk about blood composition. So are the white cells of vital importance to protect and maintain life and to destroy germs and immunize the body against fevers or infections? Or are the white cells exactly the opposite, waste, decayed, undigested and unused food and pathogenic mucus? Are these white cells eventually waste from undigested proteins and starchy foods? White cells number is increasing when you become sick as well as during digestion, even in a healthy organism. So two important facts to know when speaking about the blood. First, iron has a great importance and is a vital necessity in your human blood. And secondly, the presence of sugar staph in the blood. It is an essential part of human hemoglobin with nourishing values. And I challenge you to do the following experiment. Next time you have a regular dinner with meat, starchy food, add a plate for an imaginary guest that you do not consume, and then next morning empty this portion into a vessel. Cook it for 30 minutes at a very low temperature of about 37 to 38 degrees Celsius, which is your blood temperature, and leave it overnight. And next morning, wake up to the big unpleasant surprise that your food would have become. Blood building. The blood building in the human body involves all problems related to health and disease. Today, you are being taught that to build muscles, you must eat muscles. To build proteins, you must eat protein. And to build fat, you must eat fat. But you must intake iron to build hemoglobin. And this is far from the truth. Once the correct process of building blood starts, your obstructions decrease and your vitality and your endurance will significantly increase. So it is all about the right kind of food to get rid of your obstructions. Okay, so now that we understand that we need to get rid of those obstructions, what are the modalities to decrease those? Would anyone attempt to clean an engine by continually operating it at a higher speed or shaking it? Of course not. First, you will flush the clogged dirt, meaning you will reduce the obstruction from the engine, and thereafter the pipes and the whole motor will function with less friction and will have literally more vitality. So, how to decrease those obstructions in our human body? You can decrease the quantity of food of all kinds to about 500 to 700 grams per day, and you can alternate with 2 to 3 days of fasting to let your body detoxify and get rid of all those obstructions. You can also decrease or stop completely consuming mucus, so acidic foods, and increase the mucus dissolving food intake, and this will lead to a more unobstructed function of your lungs, your heart and your blood. Your power is also infinite, and this is for everyone, but its activity slows down at the speed that at which you accumulate obstruction, and as you continue overeating the wrong types of food, you will diminish the counter pressure of the tissues. It is worthless also to increase P or V as long as the body is full of also the obstructions. So you cannot increase your vitality and power as long as you're suffering from obstructions. And you can remove the obstructions also through intelligent, customized menus. And this is why so many diets, fasting and cures fail, because the layman understands that he or she has to eliminate, and the more rapid the better, and he or she will feel fine for a while, but the dissolving and the elimination process continues deeper and increases, and the subject will actually in the long term feel worse, terribly weak, and will therefore fall back on a wrong diet and will lose faith in this diet. Often you will hear, I tried this diet but it did not work for me. And vitality does not depend primarily and directly upon food, but on how much obstruction is in your human engine, so to speak. So removing the obstruction by artificially increasing the power through stimulants or shaking or vibrations will always be at the expense of vitality. Vital energy, physical and mental efficiency, endurance, superior health is all created by eliminating the obstructions, and you will feel beyond your wildest imaginations as soon as you have achieved a clean, unobstructed system. And the limit of going without food under such ideal conditions is not known yet. The composition of power besides air, oxygen, water, steam increases in a clean body when using agents such as electricity, ozone, light, especially sunlight, good smells of flowers and fruits, etc. A mucusless diet also to heal your system is the pathway to your highest vitality. So let's talk about what a mucusless diet actually is. In food lie 99.99% of the causes of all diseases and imperfect health of any kind. Consequently, all healing and therapeutics will continue to fail as long as you refuse to take nutrition into consideration. Mucusless diet consists of human natural food, while mucus-forming diet is harmful and produces diseases, of course. All other dietetics are wrong because they lay their focus on food values entirely, so calorie counting, instead of on cleansing and the right type of food, a healing food. And it is not sufficient to know which foods are mucusless and which are mucus forming. More important is how far and how fast the change can be successfully made, how to combine different mucusless foods, and how long and how often fasting must be done and combined with a regular, carefully thought out diet. And here's some general knowledge for you and some parameters that you can use. All fruits, leafy green vegetables and nuts are mucus-free, either raw or slightly cooked. All other foods are mucus and acid forming and therefore can be harmful if taken in too high quantities. Vegetarian diets use a mixture of good foods with eggs and milk, causing overeating, and is actually worse than moderate meat eating and a less mixed diet. Wrong cooking can also destroy the value of your foods, and raw food diet is also creating many complications. Mucusless diet uses raw food, but also cooked and stewed and baked food, depending on the targeted healing and on the health condition. And before swallowing down your food, also try to chew each bite at least 30 to 50 times. Also restrict your meals to only 2 per day, lunch between 11 to 12 a.m. for example, and dinner between 4 to 6 p.m. Also, you need to know that food is good for you as long as it is mixed with your own mucus and toxemias and eliminates those poisons. Also, a mucusless diet is a healing process through which each sick person must go if he or she wants to be perfectly healed and regenerate after a disease. Also, we recommend that you never drink during the meal. Soup should not be consumed at the same meal with other solid foods. And the mucusless diet must be progressively modulated until the final stage is reached, which is mucusless fasting. And to help you with your food selection, here is the so-called RAGNAR BERG table, where you have all types of foods with their mucus and acid forming capabilities, starting of course with flesh, bacon, blood of animals, chicken, etc., which causes the most acidity, and then fish, then eggs, milk products, grains and grain products, vegetables, root vegetables, fruits, nuts, legumes, and candies. So pause the presentation right here and have a closer look, or do an online search for the RAGNAR BERG tables if you want to know more about which types of food create mucus in your body and should therefore not be consumed in too high quantities, and which ones should be consumed because they have a very low probability of forming acid in your body. And with all that being said, I hope that you've enjoyed this information. If you have further questions, please do not hesitate to contact us, shop@lyra.com. I'm gonna post a complete contact information with our toll-free number and everything in the description box below for you. If you've enjoyed this presentation, please also do not forget to support our work by liking, sharing and subscribing, and hit also the notification button to be announced when a new video comes out. We bring out new videos every week, so do not forget to do this. And with all of this being said, I hope that you stay healthy. Until next time.